Once upon a time, in the ancient lands north of the Elbe River, there thrived a group of people known as the Saxons. Picture a region stretching from Holstein, in present-day Germany, all the way to the vastness of the North Sea. These Saxons, alongside their fellow tribes, the Angles, Frisians, and Jutes, embarked on a daring journey to Britain during the 5th and 6th centuries. This migration marked the birth of a new identity, and they came to be recognized as the Anglo-Saxons, setting themselves apart from their continental brethren. Originating from the land known as Saxony, the very name Saxons was believed to be inspired by a distinctive knife they wielded, aptly called a sax. As they ventured to Britain, these intrepid settlers established kingdoms like Kent, Wessex, inhabited by the West Saxons, Sussex, home to the South Saxons, Essex, dwelled by the East Saxons, East Anglia, and Mercia. In time, Middlesex emerged as part of Essex, completing the patchwork of their newfound homes. Although initially the term Anglo-Saxon didn't denote ethnicity, its purpose was clear. It distinguished those who had crossed the seas from their Germanic homelands to the shores of Britain. The usage of this term gained prominence after the pivotal year 1066. The Saxons, true to their nature, found themselves at odds with the Franks on the continent, eventually being absorbed into the Frankish realm under the rule of Charlemagne after the Saxon Wars from 772 to 804. Meanwhile, in Britain, their communities flourished, retaining their unique identity amidst a blend of Angles, Frisians, Jutes, and Saxons. Notably resistant to change, the Saxons were among the last in Europe to embrace Christianity. Their reluctance stemmed not only from their historical conflicts with the Franks, who were avid Christians, but also from the integral role that their own belief system, Germanic paganism, played in their daily lives and social structures. Even after the nominal conversion to Christianity in the 7th–9th centuries, the Saxons held steadfast to their pagan rites and traditions. This persistence left an indelible mark on Christian practices and, intriguingly, contributed to the evolution of the Old English language in Britain. In the corridors of power, the Anglo-Saxon kings, exemplified by luminaries such as Alfred the Great, championed literacy and the creation of books in the English of their era. However, the Norman conquest of England in 1066 brought about a seismic shift, replacing English with French as the language of the court. This transformation paved the way for Middle English, a precursor to the modern English we know today. Even on the continent, the Saxons left an enduring legacy. Despite succumbing to the Franks under Charlemagne, their traditions continued to shape the development of Germanic culture and customs. In the annals of time, the Anglo-Saxon period in Britain is dated between 410 to 1066, from the Romans' departure to the Norman invasion. On the continent, their story spans from the 4th century to 804, capturing their first mention in writing to their defeat in the Saxon Wars. Yet, their influence persisted far beyond these timelines. Continuing from the origins of the Saxons, their history is shrouded in mystery, lost to the sands of time. Ancient texts, like the Geographia of Claudius Ptolemy, hinted at their existence, though there remains debate over whether these references truly pertain to the Saxons we know. According to the chronicler Widukind of Corvey, the Saxons' beginnings were steeped in legend and tradition. Tales abound of their origins, from journeys from distant lands like Greece or Macedonia, to clashes with neighboring tribes like the Thuringi. Amidst these murky accounts, one thing remains clear. The Saxons arrived at Hadon, on the banks of the lower Elbe River, seeking new opportunities. Widukind spins a tale of intrigue and negotiation, where a Saxon youth cleverly claimed land by trading gold for earth with the Thuringi. Through cunning and diplomacy, the Saxons secured their foothold, establishing what would later be known as Saxony. Their prowess in diplomacy was matched only by their martial might, as they swiftly dispatched their former allies, the Franks, who sought to betray them. Yet, the true essence of Saxon culture and religion eludes us, as they left behind no written records of their beliefs. What little we know comes from the accounts of Christian writers who chronicled their practices. It appears the Saxons adhered to a form of Germanic paganism, worshipping gods like Odin and venerating sacred symbols like the Irminsul, believed to represent the world tree. The Irminsul stood tall in sacred groves, serving as a focal point for religious rituals and military gatherings. It symbolized not just divine power, but also the unity between the gods and humanity. Saxon society mirrored this hierarchical structure, with nobles at the apex, followed by freemen, and then the lower classes and slaves. Each stratum had its place, dictated by religious beliefs and laws that governed their interactions. Rituals and festivals punctuated the Saxon calendar, aligning with celestial events and agricultural cycles. Yule, celebrated around 25th of December, marked a time of feasting and merriment, echoing ancient traditions of decorating trees and exchanging gifts. Sacrifices to the gods were commonplace, with offerings made to ensure prosperity and favor in battle. As the age of migration swept across the ancient world, the Saxons found themselves caught in the tumultuous currents of history. Like many other tribes, they were swept into a maelstrom of socio-political upheaval, their destinies entwined with the decline of the mighty Roman Empire. The decline of Rome heralded a time of upheaval, as sedentary populations collided with migrating tribes, each vying for supremacy in the shifting landscape. Among them were the Saxons, who had long been associated with the Roman Empire, serving as mercenaries in its armies and establishing settlements along the coast of Gaul. Yet, as Rome's grip weakened, so too did its ability to safeguard its territories from marauding pirates. The Saxons, alongside their Frankish and Frisian counterparts, took to the seas, raiding coastal towns and cities with impunity. Their swift longships struck fear into the hearts of their targets, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. The Roman response was swift, but ultimately futile. Despite repeated efforts to quell the Saxon raids, Rome found itself stretched thin, its resources depleted by internal strife and external threats. As the empire contracted, so too did its influence over distant provinces like Britain. By 410 CE, the Romans had withdrawn completely from Britain, leaving the island vulnerable to incursions from both land and sea. The Saxons wasted no time in seizing the opportunity, establishing permanent settlements along the coastlines and rivers of Britannia. Yet, the Saxon migration is not simply a tale of invasion and conquest. Modern scholarship has shed new light on this pivotal period, challenging the traditional narrative propagated by medieval historians like Gildas, Bede, and Nennius. These scholars painted a picture of savage invaders laying waste to the land, but archaeological evidence suggests a more nuanced reality. Trade flourished between Saxons, Angles, Frisians, Jutes, and Britons, fostering mutual benefit and cultural exchange. Amidst this backdrop of migration and upheaval, a figure emerges from the annals of history: Cerdic of Wessex. According to the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, Cerdic arrived in Britain in 495 CE, leading his people in a campaign against the Welsh and Britons. Traditionally hailed as the founder of the Kingdom of the West Saxons, modern scholars have cast doubt on Cerdic's origins, suggesting he may have been a British earl who sought refuge among the Saxons before reclaiming his lost kingdom. Regardless of his true identity, Cerdic's legacy endures, as he laid the foundations for one of the most vibrant Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in Britain. His descendants, like Alfred the Great and Athelstan, would continue his legacy, uniting disparate tribes under a common banner and forging a kingdom that would stand the test of time. As the Saxons carved out their existence in Britain, their brethren on the continent faced a starkly different fate. Charlemagne, the formidable ruler of the Franks, sought not just dominion but uniformity. His gaze fixed firmly on Saxony, where Germanic paganism still held sway. He launched a campaign to bring the Saxons into the fold of Christianity and Frankish rule. In 772, Charlemagne's forces descended upon Westphalia, their banners held high in the name of God and unity. They struck at the heart of Saxon belief, felling the sacred Irminsul and desecrating its shrine. Yet, the Saxons stood firm, their spirit unbroken by the onslaught. For over 3 decades, the Saxon Wars raged, a relentless cycle of conquest and resistance. Charlemagne claimed victories, but the Saxons refused to yield, their defiance fueled by the memory of their sacred symbols laid low and their kin slaughtered in the name of a foreign faith. In 777, a glimmer of hope appeared as Saxon refugees sought sanctuary in the courts of Denmark. But Charlemagne saw this as a challenge to his authority and unleashed his fury once more. The massacre of Verdun in 782 sent shockwaves through Saxony, as thousands fell beneath the Frankish sword. Widukind, the Saxon war chief who had once dared to defy Charlemagne, vanished from history, leaving his people without a leader. The relentless pressure continued, as Charlemagne halted Saxon migration and imposed his will with an iron fist. In 804, the final blow fell as Charlemagne ordered the deportation of thousands of Saxons to Neustria, replacing them with Frankish settlers. The Saxon Wars came to a bitter end, their legacy fading into the annals of history. Meanwhile, across the sea, Britain embraced Christianity, yet echoes of the old ways lingered. Yule, the ancient festival of light, continued to burn bright, intertwining with Christian traditions to shape the cultural tapestry of the land. In the shadows of this tumultuous era, a literary tradition began to take root. Works like Beowulf and Caedmon's Hymn emerged from the depths of Anglo-Saxon society, laying the foundation for English literature to come. The contributions of the Anglo-Saxons to culture were manifold, from laws and governance to craftsmanship and storytelling. Yet, amidst their legacy lies a shadow, a term once celebrated now tarnished by the ideologies of hate. As we reflect on the saga of the Saxons and Anglo-Saxons, let us remember their place in the grand tapestry of global history.